All right. How's it going, everybody? Dr. Patel here. Thank you for joining us on our Facebook Live. Sorry we're delayed today, but we have a very special Facebook Live today where we're doing a proactive edition featuring our patient care coordinator, Lexie. We're happy to have Lexie on board here. She's actually a personal trainer as well. So we're going to be going through some ways of how to be active during the holidays. So first and foremost, just a couple tips to consider. When the holidays are around the corner, Thanksgiving and everything going on through December, we may or may not be starting to actually visit family or having family visit us. And we're certainly going to be eating a lot. So nutrition is another whole ball of wax that we can discuss at a future date, that we're going to be discussing at a future date. But you know, while we're eating, while we're being merry and having friends over, I think it's important for us to stay active in one way, shape, or form in order to prevent injuries from happening down the line. It's very common that we see we increase our bad food and we decrease our activity, and any of our normal day-to-day injuries or pain situations get progressively worse. So these are just a couple hints in terms of how to manage that. So 3 things to consider in terms of staying active. Number 1 is planning. So if you have friends and family coming over, or if you're going to visit friends and family, it's important to consider, all right, these are the people that are going to be coming over, this is the time that they're going to be coming over, and these are the times that I can squeeze in little things that I can do for myself. Taking care of yourself is really important, so planning ends up being very important as well. What does planning mean? All right, if you have certain things going on at certain times, when can you squeeze in a little bit of activity, right? When can you squeeze in 5 minutes of activity in your day, just to keep you from declining in any of your injuries or pain conditions? Number 2 is make a buddy, whether it's your brother or sister, mom, dad, if it's a friend or family member. The good thing about the world that we live in now is it doesn't have to be somebody that is there with you. It could be a buddy that's there virtually, but basically make a pact with somebody that you're going to keep each other accountable for doing some level of exercise or some level of activity while you have the holidays going on. And then number 3 is a specific activity that I think that we should all be able to squeeze in, is going for a walk. And this could be something that you do with your buddy, and it's certainly something that you can plan for, but going for a walk is something that just, you know, keeps your heart rate going, keeps your blood pumping. If you could squeeze in something like a jog or a run, then by all means, but at the very least, going for a walk after dinner, before dinner, whatever, squeeze it in. So those are our 3 quick and dirty tips, but we also wanted to focus on specific exercises. So it's very common for us during the holidays to become really quiet and do much of nothing. But one of the things that is a staple body region that ends up influencing a lot of different areas is your core. So while we're throwing things into our stomach, I think it is important for us to keep our muscles activated. So we're going to go over just a couple different exercises specifically for the core, and basic trunk stability exercises that you could do at your home with no equipment. So without further ado, we'll get started, and we're going to talk about a few different things. The first thing that we're going to do, what's the first thing that we're going to do? Isometrics. So your pelvis and your abdomen, one of the most important muscles in the abdominal region in your core are your transverse abdominal muscles, which are the deep muscles on the side of the abdomen. And one of the important things that's involved with the core in general is the way that your pelvis tilts. So this exercise is a super simple, very basic exercise that activates your transverse abdominal muscles and flattens your back in order to keep your pelvis in a good position. So this is somewhat subtle to see, but the purpose is, if your pelvis is here, going in an anterior pelvic tilt arcs your back, going into a posterior pelvic tilt brings your back more flat against the wall and finding that neutral position where your back is flat against the wall but not pressing deeply into the ground, or your back is flat against the ground but not pressing deeply, is where you want to get. That neutral position of a posterior pelvic tilt, neutral, is where you want to be for a lot of different exercises that we can build on top of from here. So what an isometric strengthening is just contracting the abdomen, pressing the back against the ground, and maintaining that hold. Now from there, you can add more to this by doing an isometric hold of your hip flexion. So this is bringing your hip into a 90-degree angle, and basically you're lifting your knee up towards you while pressing against your leg with your hand. And that will activate your hip flexor muscles while you're maintaining pressure against the ground with the back of your spine. Super simple exercise. You can hold that for a count of 10, repeat that 3 times on each side, and quite frankly, this is something that you can repeat as much as or as little as you want to. So from there, we're going to go on to something that I think is one of the most important things that we can do for our stability is a plank. There's different variations of plank. Doing a straight plank like this, we just want to make sure, one of the things that we often have problems with is keeping our back straight, making sure that we're not arcing too much backwards or rounding too much, but also paying attention to your neck. And this is something that our necks have the tendency to drop forward a lot, and that can cause a strain to the ligaments of the upper spine and neck. So that's important to keep your chin tucked and back during this time period. And I'll let Lex relax from this position because we don't want to strain yourself, but doing this, you can hold this pose. I would recommend holding it for 20 seconds at a time initially, and then you can go up to 30 seconds. You can work your way up to doing it at a minute at a time. And again, this is something that you can do as much as or as little as you want to. A adjustment of this, you want to go onto your knees. So if we find this a little bit too challenging, you can start with doing this on your knees. The hard thing about this is we find ourselves, when we're on our knees, it's very common for our hip or our butt to raise upwards. We want to make sure that we're in a nice even line all the way across. And again, the same applies about letting your head drop too much or too little. And then you want to go back into a normal plank. And if you are mastering this, if you're doing really well from this position, you can start adding in leg raises or leg extension, where you're activating the low back and buttock muscles, and you can just do raises back and forth. You can hold it for 10 seconds at a time, and then switch legs, or you can do repetitions of this. And again, go nice and slow if you're doing this for the first time. What's next? I'm already blanking. Side planks. We could do side planks. So another plank variation that's really great for the core and particularly your obliques is going to be something called a side plank. So again, you can do this on your knees. And it's if you have a partner, right? One of the tips that we said was having a partner. It's really good to have that partner check and make sure that you're in a good alignment. Because what we don't want to do is have the hip drop or come up too much, because then we're going to be cranking on different muscles in an inappropriate way. So we really want to be straight when we're doing this. From this position, again, you can hold this 10 seconds at a time, 30 seconds at a time, and kind of go up from there. Now, a full side plank is if you, instead of being on your knees, you're on your feet, and you can even do a variation of this when you're on one foot and lifting your leg upwards for more difficulty.
And the last one,
bird dog.
And then glute bridge.
And then glute bridge. All right, so bird dog, another one from this position. This is a great exercise to really focus on the core muscles. And what's great about this is it's working on different muscles that are kind of opposed to each other in different ways. So you start off with this quadruped position, or your shoulders over your wrists, and basically your hips over your knees. Here, put your knees up just a little bit. There we go. So this nice quadruped position with the back flat, right? That isometric hold that we did in the beginning when you're doing the pelvic tilt and feeling your back against the ground. For all intents and purposes, that's the same position that you want to be in with this. From here, you're going to lift one of your arms and one of your legs, and it's the opposite arm and opposite leg and you can hold those for 10 seconds or so, and then bring that down and do the opposite side. If you can't hold it for 10 seconds, start with 2 seconds. Work your way up to 5 seconds, work your way to 10 seconds from there. And then finally,
Glute bridge.
Glute bridges. So another great exercises for not only the core, but also the butt. So from this position where again you have that neutral spine, small of your back rested gently against the floor. You come from this position, you can keep your hands on either side, and then you're lifting your butt up like a bridge. And again, with this position, you want to keep a straight line. In an ideal world, we want to be straight from your knee, through your hip, over to your shoulder. And again, holding this for 10 seconds at a time. You can work your way up to holding it to 30 seconds and beyond that. But we want to just be sure that when we're holding it, you don't want to just push yourself to holding higher numbers and have yourself dipping down or dipping up too much, because that's going to cause you to crank your back a little bit. From this position, if you've mastered this, you can take this to the next level by again raising your leg up and doing the other side. And finally, one thing to consider is when you're doing this, if you find that your knees are actually going inwards, that's something that we definitely don't want to do. And depending on what's going on in your situation, if you have a back condition or a knee condition, you may actually want to do the opposite, is push your legs outwards. So if you have access to a band that you could put around your thigh, this is something that you can use, and then you push your thighs outwards against the band while you're holding this position. Awesome. So those are the quick and dirty basic core stability exercises that you can throw into the mix this holiday season. What we're going to actually do is put these together into a handout that's basically our core challenge for the holiday season. If you're interested in getting this handout, we're going to outline kind of what we should be doing on a week-by-week basis. And for all intents and purposes, this is a 4-week challenge where we're going to gradually build up our core over the course of the 4 weeks. It's going to involve all of those exercises and a little bit of additional variations on those. So if you're interested in getting that handout, if you're interested in participating in the core challenge for this next month, then hit us up. You can email us at info@fxregencenter.com. If you have any questions or concerns, you can always DM or you can comment, or again, you can email us at info@fxregencenter.com. If you like this, please like, subscribe. I don't know what I'm pointing at, but everybody that does these videos points at things. So like and subscribe and share this video. And if you have other topics that you want us to discuss, please hit us up. I hope you have a very, very happy Thanksgiving. I may or may not be on Facebook Live next Friday. But if I don't see you next week, have a happy Thanksgiving, and we'll see you soon.